Well, cheers, my brother.
Cheers, man.
We're back again. Hold on, let me bust this open here.
There we go.
There we go. We'll start that. Cheers, sir, my brother.
Welcome back, everybody. The Original Liberals podcast.
We are the Original Liberals, my friends.
Reclaiming the name liberal from the neo-left.
We're going to keep on saying it over and over again until you guys get it. We're not actual like liberals like you think of, okay? Don't get weird about us with it. We're trying to make this normal, all right? You guys are the ones making it weird. So let's keep this cool and copacetic here,
That's right.
all right?
That's
Cheers.
exactly right.
Cheers to that. Well, what do we want to talk about tonight, my friend?
Manhood in 2024 is our episode.
Manhood in 2024.
Yep.
Loaded subject nowadays, isn't it?
It's a very loaded subject. Yeah, I know this is one you've been wanting to do for a while. It's one we've kind of been kicking around for a while.
We actually almost named this The Art of Modern Manhood.
We did.
I mean,
we did.
That's really was the first idea we kicked around for the podcast.
Yep,
that we
sure.
seriously considered, right?
Yep. And then we ended up, we kicked around a lot of ideas before we landed on what we landed on. But I think that the concept for the podcast was always going to kind of be similar. It was just what we were going to call ourselves and how we were going to gear it. But nonetheless, it's a topic we've thought about a lot. So
actually, it's funny to going into how we kind of conceived this podcast just a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do it.
Start things out.
Yeah.
What did we consider going into it? I think the first thought was Art of Modern Manhood, right?
Yep, that was definitely the kind of the first.
What do you remember being the next iteration in our?
I don't really remember everything, the whole progression. I kind of remember where we started and where we landed.
Kind of thinking something along, like a cosmology type thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did. We kicked around some.
But I felt like that was too pigeonholing. Like you and I have too much of a variety.
Yeah,
of
we
things
do.
that we're interested by.
Yep.
And it's totally dissimilar things. Everything from baseball to quantum physics.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
And we wanted to cover it all.
We want to don't want to pigeonhole ourselves.
No, definitely not. Yeah, and the Original Liberals kind of works for that because, we both think of libertarianism as more of a way of life than a political. I mean, it is a political philosophy, and obviously we spend a lot of time talking about politics.
Sure.
But it's to me, it's every facet of life. Like libertarianism is a way of life. I think manhood's got a lot to do with it.
Well, that's why libertarianism doesn't do well as a political party.
Yeah.
Because it's really not a political party. It's a philosophy of how to be as a sovereign man, which brings us into why the Art of Modern Manhood is so dear to me, at least.
Yeah.
I can say that.
No, it is to me too. And it's kind of a lost, it's not lost. It's just, it's endangered.
If I could add, I mean, I'd like to say that I think libertarianism to me is inextricably connected to my manhood. And it's going to sound weird to say that probably.
No,
But the reason why is I always feel like when you go with a mainstream party, let's say the Democrats or the Republicans, you are almost submitting yourself to their team like you need a daddy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And sometimes even on the other parts of life, like religion, things of that nature, for me, and I'm speaking purely about myself, but it feels like everybody's looking for a daddy. Well, I'm a goddamn man.
Yep.
I don't need a daddy.
Right.
I want to think for myself and own my own life.
Yep.
And that to me starts out why I wanted to talk about the Art of Modern Manhood.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. It's that's one of the beauties of libertarianism in general too. Is I think it's all about thinking for yourself. That's kind of, I mean, it's not just about thinking. It is a philosophy. It does have its what's the word I'm looking for? Not platform. Platform would be like the party platform, but there are things about that. There are certain philosophies that make you a libertarian. Believing in personal freedom is obviously kind of the cornerstone of that. Personal freedom above everything else, but being I guess the concept of like you said, manhood, being your own man is really kind of what it's all about, and that's what makes it more of just a life philosophy than a political philosophy.
Absolutely.
So,
I think being a man first above all is someone who takes care of themselves and their loved ones.
Yeah.
I think that's the most base thing. To be a self-respecting man, those are the things you have to start with.
Honestly, for me, it almost, I'm not going to say it ends there, but it kind of starts in it. It really, in a lot of ways, does start in there. Like, if I'm going to have, like, respect for a person as a man, like, I'm really only asking a couple questions about that person. Do you take care of yourself? Do you take care of your loved ones?
That's right.
If you check those boxes, then, you can be really anything else you want to be.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
There's a lot of different ways to be a man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have, listen, also as a libertarian, I don't care how you do it.
Me neither.
As long as it doesn't affect me.
Yep.
Cool. Now, don't get me wrong. We all have the right to judge and reserve our own observations and have judgments. Judgment's a healthy part of critical thinking. So in a world that's trying to tell you to not be judgmental, there's actually a virtue of judgmentalism because you have to have a rational mind, and in order to do that, you have to make judgment calls.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we're talking about manhood here, that's the basic start, and really it's almost the finish, like you said too.
Yep.
Because you can be anything else as long as you're taking care of yourself
and the people you love.
Big respect to you for that, and that's how I respect myself too.
Yeah, it's for me. That's. It's what I try to do every day. Like that's the whole, that's the point for me. That's the reason I go to work. That's the reason pretty much everything I do now. Obviously there's, I do things for my own pleasure. Like I try to enjoy my life too.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to responsibilities, that's it. Like you taking care of yourself, or you taking care of the people you love. And if you are, then you're doing it right.
Well, you mentioned the whole pleasure aspect of it.
Yeah.
As long as you take care of the first part. When you said that, the first thing that went through my mind was all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah, that's
all right. So there is a part of life as a man, as a man in the modern America at least, where you've got to balance an overwhelming workload with some type of enjoyment in your own life. And I feel like part of manhood is self-sacrifice, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Hasn't that always... From the moment we walked out of the woods and tried to build a society, hasn't that always been that the man had to self-sacrifice?
Yeah, and that's definitely getting lost in the modern world. A lot of people don't want to any kind of self-sacrifice whatsoever. Sure. That's unfortunate.
And that's, as long as they take care of themselves, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, no, but there a lot of them aren't.
Lost in the man in the story of being a man. If you don't self-sacrifice, you lose out on a lot of things in life.
Yeah, and I mean, you said as long as they're taking care of themselves, a lot of people are not taking care of themselves either. Like, and that's. They're leaving it for the government to take care of them, which is...
The government doesn't own anything. They're leaving it to everybody else to pay their tax dollars in and then pay for their life.
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean for sure.
And that's fucked up.
Yep,
it really is. What kind of man is that?
Yeah,
a man who doesn't take care of his kids. A man who doesn't take care of good parents who took care of him his whole life.
Yep.
If your parents were assholes, fuck them.
Yep.
Listen, I'm completely okay with that.
Sure.
Just because someone's family doesn't mean they're a good person.
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily.
I know it's a lot easier to choose good people to be your friends than it is to be born into good people as a family.
Yeah.
So, but if your family's been good to you, take care of them back. Take care of the people you love, and I feel like that's a big part of the story of being a modern man, or of being a man. Is that dynamic of, okay, I'm going to take care of the people I love. Well, what do I love? I love my nation, so I'm going to sign up for the draft. Or I'm going to sign up for war. I'm going to sign up for the military. I'm going to take care of people that way. I'm going to serve and protect by putting myself on the line as a police officer, as a firefighter. That potentiality, the putting yourself on the line to self-sacrifice for the good of others, for the things that you love, that's why those things have always been seen as masculine, traditionally. I think that's a big part of the story of manhood.
It makes perfect sense. And that almost transcends cultures, without being an expert on every other culture. If you look at, across history, across the world, it's a lot of that similar stuff is, so it's probably evolutionary. It's probably built into us biologically, but, I think a lot of that, I keep saying it's under attack. I think the left really wants to destroy that aspect of, well, they don't want people taking care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a big reason why.
I think the right doesn't want people taking care of themselves either, just in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's easy. Again, it's easy because we're talking about things politically.
Yep.
For you to say what you said.
Sure.
But why do you think that?
Well, it's part of the power grab that I've talked about before. They want to take care of you so that you vote for them, mm-hmm. pay your taxes, and shut the hell up. Sure. But and that's why we have all this toxic masculinity they mm-hmm. always talk about,
which is bullshit.
Yeah, it's totally.
There's always been toxic everything.
Yep.
They're just amplifying it.
Yep.
But go on. I'm sorry to make
that was my thought.
Okay. Well, my thought in response to that is that if you want to be the big daddy mm-hmm. and run a population and run it with almost impunity, without any fear of losing the power you've acquired, because that's really the main focus of people in power is just not to lose it.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you hold that much power, I think it's very it can drive you mad in the sense that you've gotten a certain standard mm-hmm. and you don't want to lose that mm-hmm. standard for your life anymore. Yeah. And you're always worried about losing that power. It's the whole Stalin killing everybody in, mm-hmm. Anywhere near him type of thing. You get that kind of power and you start seeing everyone as an enemy, somebody else who wants your power from you.
Yep.
So it makes you neurotic, first of all. Well, if you're neurotically trying to escalate your power so you don't lose it, you would want the population you're trying to control to be infantilized. Mm-hmm. Make them into children.
Yep.
And strong masculinity is a very difficult impediment to infantilizing a population.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of that.
It's the opposite of that.
Yep. It's people that don't want to be ran. They don't want to be told how to live their lives. Mm-hmm. You want to live for yourself. You want to spend your money. You want to make your money and then mm-hmm. spend it the way you feel is best. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Strong government impedes that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, however, it seems to be a modern, neoliberal thing to destroy manhood. I guess the flip side of that is there's been, strong central governments for a long, long time that haven't, they've built up masculinity and it's mm-hmm. worked just fine. Mm-hmm. So why, I guess, what's the difference now? Why is the left trying to destroy us now?
Do you have an idea why?
No, not really. It's just a thought that I just kind of cropped up. So I just kind of pulled it out of nowhere.
Without having I think I have formed ideas on that actually deep down here. I just got to get to them.
Right? That's what it's all about.
I think the reason, in my estimation, going intuitively, is that if your goal was to destroy a culture, one of the biggest impediments is a strong masculine base that's trying to hold up the culture and protect that culture with their instinctive urge to protect the things they love.
Agree, because I do believe they want to destroy it, so that makes perfect sense.
I think that's part of it. I think it's natural that in a world where, the whole cycle of, hard times make strong people, mm-hmm. strong men. Mm-hmm. Strong men make good times.
Yeah.
Good times make weak men. Mm-hmm. And weak men make hard times, right?
Yep.
So if you're trying to knock off a culture, you want those weak men to become soft.
Yep.
You want them to feel guilt for their sex, for their, being a man.
It makes them anxious. It makes them it makes them unproductive. It makes it so they have a hard time getting women because,
dude,
biologically women want strong men. Not every single one of them, but even a lot of them.
Blanket statements, especially evolutionarily.
On the neo left, they don't want to admit that, but they do.
Absolutely.
So you create these society of men, especially younger ones, that that feel that they can't act like men.
Right.
And
you're creating a culture that socially outcasts the strong man, right? And then someone's growing up into this culture trying to understand the world through the eyes of a 15-year-old. And they see masculinity being beaten down, and they don't want to exhibit those traits anymore.
Because they think it's toxic. They think
it's toxic. But
they've been told that.
Even if they don't instinctively think it's toxic, they will avoid it anyways due to the fear of exclusion, right?
Yeah.
But that's really for half of the men. I think there's another half of men coming up who see it and say, fuck it.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, I'm a goddamn man.
I hope so.
That's who I was.
Yeah, that's the way I've always felt. I always said fuck it. Like, I don't care. Like, it wasn't as big of a thing when I was younger, but like it was still like.
Was it a thing?
I think it was becoming a thing.
Yeah.
They didn't have all the the same buzzwords, but
the ways to identify it. And,
but
to ding the bell over and over again, because it's like, it's the Pavlov's dog thing. You create this term like toxic masculinity is ding the bell, ding.
Well, there wasn't as big of a bell to ding all the time, because the social media wasn't as big of a thing. Like it wasn't. Social media is the downfall. I'm telling you, it's the downfall of society.
It's the downfall and the savior, and I'm not. It's both.
It's both. It's both.
Yeah.
But there's probably more the downfall.
Well, again, it goes back to the Jordan Peterson, the psychologist from Canada, has been doing the rounds for years and putting out books and saying wonderful things and things that people hate in podcasts and in interviews. And he says that when people grow up online, they see certain social interactions, and that's what they learn the world is supposed to be, that those rules of online social interactions are the rules of how you interact with people. And then you try to remove yourself and go into the real world, and you act like that, and it looks like psychosis because it has nothing to do with reality. It looks like a mass psychosis. So you have a whole generation of men that have been taught a certain thing about their masculinity, and then they've got to work it out in the real world. And it's got to be it was a difficult process before for men, and I'm sure it's not easier now. These poor kids are going through something that no one has ever gone through before.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, think about trying to, as a young man, trying to make your way in the world without exhibiting any of your masculine traits.
Oof.
How are you going to, how are you going, you need to be successful, find a job, excel at that job, and of course women do that too. It doesn't necessarily take masculinity, but I'm just saying there's a lot of aspects of a person's masculinity that can be very helpful with that.
Absolutely.
Like, being, I guess standing up for what you believe in, not being afraid of, to me, that's another big masculine trait. Like, it just not really giving a shit I'm not saying you shouldn't care what other people think about the way you act, but about what your beliefs are. Like, this is who I am. Like, I present myself in a certain way. Like, this is what you see is what you get. People respect that.
Absolutely.
That's a huge part of it for me. And
so isn't that what
that's getting lost too, I think.
If they're trying to demonize masculinity, isn't that what they're fighting against? And to me, it's a losing battle for them.
I hope you're right.
They're fighting our natural. See, there's a nature and nurture in every one of us, right? And they can only control the nurture part, unless.
And the nature is probably more powerful. But biology is.
It's at least 50-50, right?
Yeah.
And I think psychology, at least when I was a kid and I learned about it a little bit, they always considered it 50-50. I don't know if that's changed or not.
Yeah.
But how do you fight nature? There's only a few ways to do it. And they know empirically that the average man now has half the testosterone of someone in the 1950s.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's crazy.
So there's something going on there that might be demasculinizing us on a natural level.
I think maybe it's just the ease of life.
Maybe it is the ease of life.
Like,
or maybe it's the microplastics in the water, or it could be a million different things that are far too esoteric for you and I, too nebulous for you and I to get figured out, I'm sure.
Yep.
But there's something going on, isn't there?
Could be the tomatoes.
Could be the
inside
tomatoes.
joke.
Inside joke is maybe she is right about those tomatoes. And I have to,
the genetically modified tomatoes.
well, yeah. I mean, it's got to be something to do with our environment or the way we eat.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure, the way we eat is a lot different than it was in the 1950s for sure.
Yep.
Back when McDonald's hamburgers were 5 cents and they were real beef. And then we run through and see, fatty, everybody, myself included, running through the fucking drive-through when you're busy.
Yeah. I went today for lunch. I did. I had a McDouble.
Did you really?
Yep.
That's always my call too. That's actually always my go-to is a McDouble.
McDouble with no pickles, man.
But it's like that's
it's so goddamn easy, man.
And then the fucked up thing about McDonald's now too is people are starting to realize that it's no longer a deal.
Yeah.
How much was your McDouble?
3 something, I think.
Oh. $3?
Nah, is it 3? I don't know.
Fuck, if you get
like that,
I thought it
used to be $1.
No, I'm thinking about the double quarter pounder.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. If you get a double quarter pounder in the drive-through with a large combo double quarter fatty deluxe like this guy right here, dude, it's $15.
Yeah, it's insane,
dude.
It's insane.
Like things have changed.
Can't even afford to get fat anymore.
Can't even afford. Isn't that how you know you built a good society?
Yeah.
When the biggest problem for your poorest people is obesity.
Right. That's a fact.
That's what true. Strong men build. They build a society that literally even the poorest are fat.
Yep.
Which isn't that awesome? And then people complain about it and say there's all kinds of problems with it. So we got a class of people that are obviously destroying, they have a negative outlook on everything in our society, manhood included, right? So, and maybe it's, to me, I've always felt like strength is the virtue by which every other virtue we have can exist. Before you can be a good man, you have to be a strong man. Before you can be a kind man, you have to be a strong man. Yeah. Because kindness without strength is just a weak way of trying to manipulate people.
Yeah, it becomes a weakness.
It's from weakness.
Kindness with strength is amazing.
It's manipulation.
Yeah,
is what it is. If you're a weak person being kind to someone, you're just doing it to try to get something.
Yep. Maybe you're just a kind person, but then you end up getting rolled over by everybody.
If you're not strong enough to love yourself, how can you love somebody else?
Yeah, I mean,
because you can't respect yourself if you're a weak person.
Yeah, true. I guess my point is that you could still be kind.
You can,
but you would end up people will take advantage of you. You reap no benefit.
I feel like I feel like weak people try to they live life from a vantage point of never having enough because they are always on the weak side of things. So they're always trying to make up that ground.
Yeah.
So the psychological extension of that would be to try to continually get something out of everybody else.
Okay.
To try to make up that ground.
Yeah.
Because you feel like, let's say, life dealt you a shit hand, right?
Yeah.
And and everybody else is at fault. Whereas the opposite of that is a strong man who has his cup runneth over, and he can finally give to others without that desire to try to get 5 cents more than what he put in return. Yeah. I would rather me as a strong man, I'd rather give freely because my cup overflows.
Yeah.
I think that's a basis of strength. And I don't mean that just like giving. I mean kindness, integrity, all that stuff. How much integrity can you exhibit as a man if you're coming from a place of just trying to get by because you're too weak to do it yourself?
You can't.
You can't. I don't think it's possible. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't think
What do you
is.
think?
I agree. I don't know how you could. You got to check that box first. So
as a man, I think there are probably 4 aspects in my life that I felt have led me to the success that I've had in my life. And one of them, and again, I'm a 41-year-old man now, but I was younger and I was better looking at one point. I think looks are important. My dad always told me growing up, he said, Ben, looks get you through the door. Character keeps you there.
Yeah.
But without the looks getting you through the door, it's hard to get the opportunity.
To expand on that a little bit, looks are always important, but more important than looks is presentation. You don't have to be a naturally good-looking person. Yeah,
no,
sure.
that is looks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Even if you weren't born
purely,
beautiful, but
I'm not
you can dress that up. You can get a haircut.
Anybody can go to the gym, lift weights, and widen their shoulders.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody can do these things. Anybody can dress well. Anybody can take care of themselves. That's part of the looks equation.
Sure. Okay.
But no, don't get me wrong. There's a natural element too.
Of course.
Some men are going to be 5'2". Some men are going to be 6'2", and some men are going to be 7'2". There's nothing we can really do about that, as far as I know.
No.
But there are 5'2" men out there who have more presence of character than the 6'2" guy.
100%.
Now, I think it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's something you got to overcome.
So much. But as a 6'2" guy myself, I will tell you there is such a thing as height privilege. 100%. You heard it here first. Being a tall dude is like being a pretty girl.
Yeah.
You don't have to be beautiful as a man, but I'm telling you, height has a huge privilege to it. I'm exercising that from my soul right now. So you know that there is height privilege. I'm telling you that.
It's funny, as a 5'10" guy, like I never even thought about it. Like I'm just
5'10's tall.
Yeah, it's average. It's average.
Yeah,
so
5'9" is I think the average.
I'm not
right?
short. Yeah, I think it's 5'9". Yeah.
So, but I can tell you, as a guy who, I'm 15 years old on my basketball team. I was 6'2", dunking a basketball at 225 pounds.
You were 6'2" when you were 15.
Yeah, I didn't actually. No, that's not true. At 6'1" when I was 15, and then I didn't grow until I was 19. And then this is around 2001, 2002, before George H.W. Bush put out the Pro Hormones Act or whatever, when baseball was going through the steroids thing. You were able to get legal steroids that were a conversion. You literally popped the pill. And it wasn't steroids until it got into your system, and then it mixed with an enzyme that already existed there and became steroids. That's called pro-steroid.
Wow.
So I used to take those.
Nice.
And I'm telling you the true story is that I was 6'1" when I was 15, all the way up to 19 or 20. And when I started taking those, I grew another inch.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I did. I don't know how it works, but that's what. I guess I had something left in the tank that the extra testosterone decided to kick in. That's just my life experience, and people will probably tell me that's insane, but I'm telling you that's my life experience. Yep. But anyways, where were we going with that?
I don't have any idea.
You don't have any idea? All right, no problem. Yeah, but no. There's a height privilege to things, and a size privilege. Because I'm a 6'2" dude, I walk into a room, even if I didn't have anything else going for me, I'd still have presence as soon as I walk in. Probably, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the most important thing you said about that is you could be 5'2" and have more presence than somebody who's 6'2".
100%.
And that's what it's all about.
100%.
It's about everything. It's about how you carry yourself, and people will respect you if you carry yourself a certain way. If you're steadfast in your beliefs and who you are, and you always present that, people are going to know, you're going to gain that respect.
Absolutely.
Regardless.
You're a Marcus Aurelius fan, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Marcus Aurelius guy, and I believe he would be considered a Stoic, wouldn't
he? Yep.
And a Stoicism goes a long way as a man.
Yep,
what do you think? You taking the philosophical aspect, what do you think of that?
I mean,
I'm not a Stoic at all, by the way. I have a lot of respect for it, though.
Well, so why not?
Because that's not who I am. I'm a straight up extrovert.
Interesting.
I put everything on, on my fucking sleeve. All right.
You are actually probably one of the most extroverted people I know, but I'm extroverted in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways I'm also reserved. I think there's a lot to be said for that, at least for me personally. I don't exactly wear everything on my sleeve. I never miss a good opportunity to shut up sometimes. Sometimes if I can just shut up and listen, my opinion doesn't always need to be heard. Saying that from my podcast where we just sit here and give
that's
our
opinions. Job. That's what we do.
That's what we're doing. But there's a lot of situations where my opinion doesn't need to be heard. I know that, and I wait for an opportunity when I think it's going to actually be beneficial, not just to me, but to whatever the situation is. So, I have always had a lot of respect for the strong, silent type.
Oh, absolutely. I do too.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm not, but I still see the value in it.
It's cool when you can see the value in a philosophy or a personality type that isn't necessarily yours.
But you know what? Stoicism is so good that I think everybody respects it, whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about Stoicism. Actually, it's funny. You said all that about yourself, and I immediately went back to a text message I sent you about 3 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago.
I don't know which text message you're going to say.
You don't know which one? Where I asked you how you were doing, but I followed it up with no bullshit.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Right? No bullshit. How are you actually doing? You don't need to reserve that. Tell me how the fuck you're doing. I know you're going through some stuff.
And I'll do it. I'll tell you. But you're right though. When you send me a message like that, I've got to stop because my general sense is going to be to probably just be like, yeah, man, I'm doing good. Like everything's fine. Like. Even if that's not necessarily the case, like if I'm having a major crisis, you're my friend, I'm going to let you know. But my minor crisis, I'm not going to like. Now, when you say that, I'll take a step back and I'll go ahead and I'll tell you.
Yep.
But I have a real tendency to take my minor crises and just kind of beat them down and deal with them and not really talk about them. So,
you know why I have to be that way?
Why is that?
I'm such an extrovert. I have to vent.
Yeah.
So I respect that other people might have to vent too. Even if you don't, I'm going to give you the opportunity.
Venting feels good sometimes.
Venting feels decent sometimes, but only if it's to the right people.
Exactly.
You know who your friends are as a man.
Yep.
When you feel okay in venting to that person, because men are supposed to hold it in.
Yep,
we are.
And I like it's like I'm never going to go to work and complain. I'm not going to go to work and start bitching about the fact that I don't want to be there, or this person, or this boss, or that boss, or I'm just, there's a time and a place for that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But like you said, when you're with your friends, like my wife gets to hear a lot of my venting, but
of course, no, that's what she's your partner.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel terrible how much time I vent on Kristen. But I feel terrible about it. When I think back on it, oh my God, I vent. You have to carry.
It's part of the deal, though.
It's part of the gig, I guess.
It's part of it.
Kristen's got plenty of her own shit she's going through, and I do hold back on some. But man, thank God she's there for us.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I was going through the 4 things that I think are important as far as strength and virtues as a man.
Yeah.
I mentioned looks. I think the next one is you got to be intellectually strong to be the best man you can be.
Yeah.
And being intellectually strong means being able to rationally look at the world without letting your emotions overpower that. And that's hard for some people because we consider men are supposed to be rational. But if I ever remember right, it's at least 3/4 of men are actually considered feelers, not thinkers, in the MBTI test, which is the Myers.
I believe it.
It's I think 3/4 of people overall are, and maybe it was a little lower percentage for men and a higher percentage for women. But emotionality has always been connected to femininity, right?
Yep.
But masculinity, the large percentage of men are also feelers first, and what that means from the MBTI perspective is that if I told you "fuck you" and you didn't know where I said who I was, where I came from, and why I said it, the extroversion introversion thing would be like, okay, am I going to tell you "fuck you" back? That's an extrovert.
Yeah.
What did I do? That's an introvert. That's what introvert extrovert means. But
who's the guy that just smiles and keeps walking?
The guy who smiles and keeps walking is probably the introvert who's a thinker. Because a feeler...
It's funny because I'd probably smile and keep walking, but I don't feel like I'm an introvert, though. So,
introvert doesn't mean what we've been conditioned to believe it means. It means your initial reaction without any thought. Do you go inside or do you go outside? So if you tell me, if you say, Ben, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Right? Fuck me. Fuck you. But if you tell an introvert that, they go, why did he say that? But that's if they're a thinker.
Yeah.
Or if they're a feeler, they'll go, oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than thinking about how it hurts.
Yep.
Yeah. So if I come back with a smile and say, fuck you, it's probably because I'm an extroverted thinker. If I come back with rage, angry, how could you feel like you say that to me? Fuck you. That's an extroverted feeler by the MBTI standards. But we think of men as being rational when the fact is that most men, their initial reaction is to feel first.
Interesting.
Believe it or not.
Do you think there's...
that's hard as a man.
Speaking of rage, do you think there's a... I feel like there's a problem with rage. I think that a lot of men, that's the only way they can express their...
emotions.
Well, yeah, and they have this inner rage. Probably a lot of it's got to do with the fact that their actual masculinity is being beaten down by societal expectations, so they end up lashing out.
Sure.
You know, that's why we end up with, like, school shooters, and, you know, it's probably part of the reason we have such a huge prison population.
Okay. Well, I think
violent, like...
Yeah, I think... intuitively, I would say that I think evolutionarily it was good for men to have rage because it caused us to go to war. It caused us to go run and try to chase down that elk that's getting away.
Maybe not rage, though.
I think men get angry and women get sad, right?
Sure, but rage, when I say rage, it's like it blinds people. It takes their ability. I'm not saying aggressive. Like
tell me what you mean.
Aggression and rage are different.
Okay.
Aggression can be a good thing.
Okay.
When it's necessary, but you can be aggressive. You can think through your problem and decide aggression's the right move here in a certain situation.
Okay.
And then rage would just be blind aggression. It would be aggression without the thinking.
Oh, okay.
Like you're blinded by like whatever it is.
I think wouldn't that...
And maybe it doesn't always need to be acute. Like it could almost be planned.
Have you ever felt that before?
Blind rage? Yeah, probably at some point. I'm sure I have. Trying to think.
Probably maybe sometime of weakness or youth.
Yeah, when I was younger, probably.
Yeah.
I think I've grown out
of
a lot of that too.
Young. Yeah, but I think you grow and mature as a man, you get out of that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. You kind of
At least that's my experience.
You learned it. And I got no problem being aggressive in certain situations.
Right, or at least assertive,
always,
if not aggressive.
Yeah, assertive, aggressive. I'm not necessarily physically aggressive. You can be, just aggressive in your presence. Like, and once again, that's a word that's been kind of demonized. It's not always a bad thing. Blind rage is always a bad thing, but it's all about rationality. It's all about whether you're thinking things through, which, like kind of we said earlier, is a kind of a key aspect of what manhood should be.
Wasn't that the Viking thing about berserkers?
I don't know that.
You know what I'm talking about? The whole Viking rage that they'd get themselves into a blood rage before they went to battle. Wasn't that an evolutionary trait of like a more primitive society, warring societies?
I don't know.
I find it to be interesting. I don't know any answers to it, but I find it to be interesting.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. You never heard those stories about the Vikings?
No, I don't think so.
I think the term for it was the berserkers. They'd call themselves the berserkers.
Not familiar with that at all.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's something I'd have to look up before we talked about. But I found that to be... maybe it's pertinent to what we're talking about.
Tell us in the comments.
Yeah, tell us in the comments if
you know anything about the berserkers.
The berserkers, yeah.
Cool.
But anyways, even World War II, that's what they were doing to their Germans and Americans both alike. We were pumping our soldiers up with methamphetamine.
That's crazy.
And putting them into a blind rage and then sending them off.
Yeah.
Methamphetamine and give them to the fighter pilots so they could take longer flights.
Yeah.
All those things that...
Desperate times,
desperate measures. Absolutely. Yeah, that's one thing we talk about is when war times come, masculinity isn't toxic anymore, is it?
No, it's not.
It's only when things are good that we can have these luxury beliefs of masculinity is bad, and then when it's time to protect your ass, masculinity is good again. Go fucking figure.
You're right.
Yeah. So much of modern American society and the things that drive people's beliefs is literally luxury.
Luxury, abundance.
Beliefs, luxury, and abundance. And how did that luxury and abundance get put there? By strong men.
Exactly right. By the first libertarian country ever.
Sure. But by the strong men that have always protected us all the way up until now, very much. And that's it's purely a luxury of the... afforded by strong men.
You were saying earlier that you thought maybe it would come back around. I wasn't sure at that point whether I was like, okay, I hope you're right. But, the more I kind of think about it as we talk, I think you probably are right because...
About what? Coming back?
About real masculinity coming back around.
Sure.
Because this abundance and this peace, the relative peace, the situation in the world, in our country right now is not going to last forever. And as times get tougher, you're right, it'll come back around. People will start to live the way they have to.
Absolutely.
When they're not getting all the free shit anymore.
Yeah.
And they've got no other choice but to take care of themselves and their loved ones.
They either die or adapt. Yep. And humans are not the strongest species physically on the planet, but we are the most adaptable, aren't we?
The smartest.
Yeah. I guess that was our greatest attribute as a species, is our adaptability.
Yeah.
Even though it's strange that we have bodies that don't really work in the outdoors.
Yeah, right.
Right. But however it happened, and here we are. But mentally, we adapt.
Yeah.
In a way that no other species on this planet.
And that's why we live everywhere from the equator to the.
That's right.
To the Arctic.
That's right.
Yeah. Talk about proliferating the globe. It's crazy what people have, and people. It's going back to masculinity. Like I said, it's been a virtue throughout all different societies, all around the world. Absolutely. Forever, and. It's part of the reason, it's definitely part of the reason the species has survived and thrived and essentially conquered the world. Yeah,
women are different, but equal in my estimation.
And there's a lot of virtues of being a woman too. That's not this episode.
No, what I mean is it takes both sides of the coin. It takes both.
Yeah.
You have to have the men that go out into the wilderness to come back with the food. You need to have the women who take care of the children in the meantime, build the home, provide support to the men when they come back. Yeah. That's the natural way of evolution.
Yep, I would argue that's biology.
If you don't want to live that kind of life as a modern person, I don't care. You don't have to, and that's fine.
Yep.
And nothing wrong with that.
But that doesn't change.
It doesn't change how we.
It doesn't change the fact that it's literally biological.
It is a biological element to it. Just as as the difference in XX and XY. And which is even now seems to be lost. Yep. There's a biological difference in chromosomes.
No, it just goes back to the left. The left is the party of science until they're not anymore, until it doesn't fit
it doesn't fit a political narrative.
Yeah, and then they'll. It really is insane.
Right. Well, I guess we kind of went over it was looks as strength of looks, strength of integrity, and rationality. Because without Ayn Rand, a woman, said that the man's only virtue is their rational mind, their ability to rationally get through things. It's their only way of survival. Man's only way of survival is their rational ability.
Yeah,
that was an Ayn Rand, the philosopher, and she was a female. But the next thing is you have to be strong emotionally as a man too, because so many of us, instead of processing our feelings, we repress them. That's the way we've been taught, especially 1950s Red Foreman kind of guy, Yep. And emotions are a very important, healthy part of manhood as well. We're not freaking cavemen here talking about ooga booga, I'm a man. Emotions are a huge part too. It's harder to talk about though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it really is. It's the kind of the traditional thing they teach boys on, who knows anymore, but man up, don't cry,
rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, exactly. So the only emotion it's really stereotypically acceptable for a man to exhibit anger. If you think about it,
that's right.
That's an emotion. You can be as angry as you want to, and that's fine. But you can't cry. And
it's very true.
It's interesting, but
listen, I'm not a big fan of crying.
No, I mean, I
don't think I've cried in 20 years, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I haven't cried in 20 years. But I think a lot of people hearing that would say, "Oh, there's something wrong with them."
Yeah.
No, I don't think there is. I'm just haven't cried in 20 fucking years.
That's just how dude, I beat my emotions down more than I should.
Right.
I do. I bottle them up. You probably shouldn't do that.
Isn't that the part of self-sacrifice as a man though too?
Yeah. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes you're not helping the situation.
We're supposed to carry the burden. We're not supposed to give the burden.
Exactly. There's a time and a place to let those emotions out, and there definitely is a time and a place, and you probably should actually do it, but there's also a time and a place not to, because, like you said, carry the burden. How am I going to benefit situation A, B, or C by...
Absolutely. Rationally speaking, what good does it do for me to vomit my emotions?
Yep. Usually not much.
Not much.
No.
Not much. I mean, there's the whole Chris Rock stand-up bit that I think of when we talk about that. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. But it was that women and children can be loved unconditionally, but men can only be loved as long as they provide.
Interesting.
I don't know how true that is. I think it might be.
Yeah, but It might be.
It might be true, because as soon as you stop providing what you're expected to provide, all respect is lost for you. And how much can you love someone you don't respect?
Right. That doesn't necessarily mean money either.
It means providing a whole spectrum of things.
Sure. Like security.
Great point.
Just being emotionally strong, like through situations, that's huge. That's providing in and of itself.
That is provide. We're supposed to be the rock, which all the currents go around, and they can hang on to us as those crazy currents are going by and they don't get swept away. We're supposed to be the rock they can count on, right? Yep. And I take pride in that. I think all good men take pride in being that, you know?
I absolutely do.
So that's a big part of it, historical manhood and modern manhood.
Yeah. No, it doesn't change. It's always been that way. The difference now, though, is that you've got to, maybe you've been taught that that's not okay. That's not who you're supposed to be.
What, the repression?
Rock, the rock.
You're not
maybe you're not supposed to be. Maybe they're teaching kids that maybe if that in and of itself is toxic, maybe you should, get out of the way and let somebody else, let the woman be the rock. Like,
right. And there's nothing wrong with letting a woman be the rock if she wants to be,
and if she is,
there is a nature to all this.
Yeah,
there is a fucking nature.
There's
all
exceptions
of this.
to every single rule, and there are women that are the rock, and that's fine.
That almost makes me cringe, though.
It's fine for whoever it's fine.
I'm gonna be the rock.
Yeah, and so am I, and that's who I am.
Yep, that's right, exactly.
That's who I am, but maybe that's not who somebody else is. And my point is, so what? Whatever. But if you have young men who don't feel that that's okay for they start to think that their personality is toxic because of that. Then you got a whole society full of people, and nobody's the fucking rock.
Nobody's the rock. It's everybody's swept up in the currents. Nobody knows their ass from their elbow, and you can do whatever the hell you want to that population because there's no one there to stop you.
Yep.
No one there is a safeguard.
And then what you end up with in that situation is 100 women competing for one man, and the other 99 men nobody fucking wants.
I'm so glad you said that.
Because they've been taught that everything that makes them attractive to a woman, or just attractive, not necessarily to a woman, attractive in general, attractive to an employer, attractive to friends, they have been taught to disregard that and get rid of it, and now they're not attractive, and now they're depressed. And,
absolutely.
And then comes the rage, because why the hell wouldn't you be enraged?
Yep.
It's a terrible cycle.
I'm glad you said that. You know why?
Why?
Just the other day, I saw a chart, and it was the percentage of men under age 30 who are still virgins, between the ages of 18 and 30 who are still virgins.
I bet it's huge.
Up until 10 years ago, it stayed pretty steadily around 15%, I think. Since then, it's jumped up to 30. It's doubled.
Wow, just in the past 10 years.
Based off of exactly what you were trying to explain.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
There's a nature to this, and when you make yourself unattractive, you will not be mating. That's how it is.
Yeah, but you're taught that that's what makes you attractive. And so you are taught by liberals that the way to be attractive is to throw your manhood away, and it does the opposite to you. So they've sabotaged you.
That's a really good point.
It's crazy.
I saw that chart just the other day. I was almost shocked by it. People between 30 and 18, literally almost like 1 in 3. Are still virgins.
It doesn't surprise me at all. It really doesn't. It doesn't.
But there's a natural order to selection too. I'm going to go off on a rant. Is that okay?
Rant. Okay. Rant, my friend.
I have a personal belief that because men don't have to carry babies evolutionarily, the way we won the genetic lottery, and they won the genetic lottery, and we became their descendant with their genes passed down to us, was the men of all those old ages would have as many children with as many women as possible.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how a man evolutionarily would win the genetic lottery and have his genetics passed down, was if he literally could impregnate 1,000 women a year and have 1,000 babies and he'd win.
Yep.
Right? But a woman doesn't have that luxury.
No. She's got to choose wisely.
She has to choose. Men can be indiscriminate that way, but women can only have one baby per year, and at huge penalty.
And she's going to be stuck with it.
And she's going to be stuck with
15
it.
to 20 to
but a huge penalty
years.
to her body.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to be likely stuck with that baby.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it in evolutionary terms. It's actually very dangerous to have a baby because you're not talking about modern medicine. You're not talking about hotels.
Good chance you're going to die.
And midwives. You're talking about
the
in the
old-fashioned
woods.
way. Like
the old-fashioned way, you're likely to die. The queens of kings would die in child labor. And that was a normal thing throughout human history. Even
and they had the best care available.
Yeah. So this is a present
and
part.
Honestly, that was normal just up until not too long ago.
Not long ago at all. Yeah. I mean, if you had 5 kids to work on the farm, you expected 2 of them to die along the way in the early 1900s, right? Yeah. You know, on the old Dust Bowl. But
I think I saw the other day Jimmy Carter was the first president to be born in a hospital.
Jimmy Carter. Interesting.
Man's still alive. Like if that shows you how not very long ago it was that people were just being born wherever they happened to be at. Like,
so from an evolutionary perspective, it's a dangerous proposition to have one child as a woman. Whereas a man, you can just pop those bad boys, impregnate as many as you possibly can. That made you a strong fucking man. Right?
There's no consequence.
The whole key that opens every lock is a good key, but every lock that gets opened by gets by any key is a bad lock. Anyway, so that's the whole evolutionary perspective on that, right? Not that I agree with it today.
But it just is. It's a fact.
It's a fact. It's a fact. Yeah. Or is at least a pseudo fact, and it's at least very reasonable. And so, what we have is a process where men don't have to be discriminate at all, evolutionarily, but women have to be discriminant because if they're going to put themselves in that situation, like their biological initiative tells them to, because we are all here to do a couple things, and that's eat and have sex and have babies. That's what we're here as biologically speaking. Those are our only 2 imperatives, right?
Pretty much. Stay alive, reproduce.
Stay alive, reproduce, right?
Stay alive long enough to reproduce, and then
exactly. So they have to do it biologically, and they're going to take that risk. They're going to do it with someone that's worth it. It's not indiscriminately screwing every guy.
They got to get the good genes.
Evolution. They want the good genes to pass on. That's the only way a woman could pass good genetics.
And somebody that's got the resources to help her take care of that baby.
So that means providing protection, strength and manhood.
And there it is. It all comes right back around to it all makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
It all makes perfect sense when you put it in those terms. So here we have these luxury beliefs creeping in a modern society where everything's easy and you don't have to worry about dying in childbirth and free sex and love, which I have no problem with. But there's still the fact that those luxury beliefs have creeped in and they're trying to usurp our biological imperatives, and they never will.
No.
They'll never completely usurp them.
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
Biology always wins.
So the 100% of women will always be vying for the top 15 to 20% of men. And maybe that's a large margin. Maybe it's less than that.
I think that's probably more of like a... that probably would have been accurate previously, but I like I said, I think it's so small now because there are so many men that would probably be good potential partners who aren't because they listen to the bullshit that's preached to them about how their masculinity is bad for the world.
Also, too, hasn't social media affected people's perspectives on what a valuable person is?
Totally.
Right? Don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's how many likes you got, you know.
How many likes you got?
How many friends, how many followers, how many...
If the females women are seeing Instagram models and thinking that's where they're supposed to be, and then getting depressed when they can't be that, or trying to be that at the best they possibly can, they're also looking at the men on Instagram or whatever, you know, the whole fantasy thing, right? Oh, that's what a man's supposed to be for it to be worth it to me. Then their standards might get a little bit higher.
Yeah, it brings everybody's standards
higher
to a ridiculous, like...
Right, yeah.
Like, how often you meet somebody who looks like an Instagram model in real life? Like,
right. Except for me. Yeah, right.
What, once a year? Yeah, like, not that. It depends on where you're at.
But yeah, I think that's part of the effect of social media is you're making it look like the standards should be incredibly high for both yourself and others. And that does, high standards are fine as long as you are the kind of person that can live up to those standards yourself.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. And that's why, as a man, modern-wise, in a world that's telling you not to be a strong man, it's even more important to be a fucking strong man.
Yeah.
Because if you do have any, in my estimation, if you do have any chance at living a full life as a man, you've got to be the strongest you can be.
Yeah, you do.
Otherwise, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah,
it's not going to
work out.
The worst thing for me as a man is making decisions from desperation. Whenever you make important decisions from desperation, desperation's a terrible cologne on anybody, especially men.
Yeah.
Especially men. Desperation is horrible. It's creepy. It's called creepy to women. Oh, he's desperate.
Yep.
Oh, there's nothing that makes him run faster than desperation, is there? Right? So the last thing you want to do is be choosing your wife out of desperation because you're worried about, it's hard for me to get sex. I want to have sex. I want to be able to do these things. Okay, this woman actually likes me. I'm going to marry her. Right there. Desperation. And then they just live shit lives based on desperate decisions. So in order to not be making your decisions based on desperation, you've got to come from a place of strength. And that's that's easier said than done as a man.
It really is, especially in this day and age. It's
in any day and age, especially this day and age, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be coming from a place. If you want to have the fullest life possible, you get one crack at this life, man.
Yep.
Don't you have to be coming from a place of strength?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's actually one thing I tell my son all the time.
Yeah.
My son is 15 years. He just turned 15. And I tell him, whatever you do, whenever you make a decision, come from a place of strength, not weakness. Do not make decisions out of desperation. They never work out. Have options. Yep. Always give yourself options. Yep. And that to me, that's important. I don't think men are told that.
Yeah, it probably not. But it's very important. If you have options, if you've got choices, then that alone, creating choices for yourself.
Yeah.
Having all the traits that we've talked about allow you to have choices. If you're not a strong person, I think you'll immediately find yourself with fewer choices just automatically. And then it's kind of an endless cycle until you just kind of get the scraps. You get what's left over. Yeah. What everybody else threw away.
Nobody wants to feel like that, but men have to.
And it's got to be hard to come out of that cycle.
Women certainly don't want to feel like that. They don't want to feel like they're with a man that had no other options.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Why would a woman want to? When a woman has so many more options than men, just by her virtue of being a female, right? Because we're indiscriminate by nature. Yeah. Not now, but by nature, they have so many more options. Why would they want to feel like there was someone who had no other options?
No. They wouldn't.
They wouldn't want to. It would be demeaning to their self-esteem to do so.
Yeah.
You got to come from a place of strength. You got to.
For sure.
So I think, and that was the looks wise, the rationality, the intelligence, the emotions. And I think the fourth thing is spiritually. I think spiritually you have to be a strong person. You have to have a strong character and a strong spirit. And that can, be religious, but I consider spirituality to be something different from religion. Religion's more of a mass thing. Like there's
spirituality can be religion. Doesn't have to be though.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah. It's like a square and rectangle, right?
Yep. Sure.
I think spiritually you have to be a strong human man, to be a strong man too, to get the most out of life.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to harp on that portion of it.
Well, we could talk about it a little bit. Like it's, what do you mean by it? Describe what you mean by being spiritual a little bit more.
I guess
what would be the minimum for
certainly it's the most nebulous of the three. You can't pin it down like the other ones, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little harder to define. So it's one of those things that you almost have to define for yourself. So if I was going to give you an answer to that, I'd have to just give you my answer, which might not be the same as your answer.
Personally, I spend a lot of time contemplating existence.
Bingo.
The universe, what it all means.
That's exactly what it is for me.
I get a lot of answers about my own life just from that contemplation, from taking time to think about why am I here? What's this all mean? You know, sometimes those questions take years to answer. You never really answer them, but honestly, learning that I don't have a lot of the answers.
That's right.
Has helped me kind of grow and mature.
Absolutely.
Being able to accept you don't know everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would probably qualify.
I think that would highly qualify because I feel very strongly the exact same way.
Yeah.
And in a life that as a man can feel, especially after you, and let me paint a scenario. You're a man, you got the wife, you got the 2 kids. Mm-hmm. You've been married, let's say, 16 years, 15 years. You kind of lose yourself in your masculinity. Mm-hmm. Like, you go to work every day, and you come home and you wear the dad hat, you wear the employee hat, you wear the business owner hat, you wear the husband hat, you wear every hat except for the me hat most of the time. Yeah. And a lot of men struggle with this because that's the balance you have to strike right as a man to be a provider. Mm-hmm. But all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, right? Yeah. So you've also got to wear the you hat sometimes too, and almost feels demeaning to my masculinity to actually wear the me hat at all.
You think so?
Sometimes it feels that way. Not that it should. No. It's unhealthy, but I've trained myself that I have to put them first.
It's never felt that way to me.
No?
Yeah. No,
that's good.
As long as I've got everything else taken care of.
That's good. That's very good.
As long as I got the stuff taken care of, I need to get taken care of, I'm perfectly fine.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Good. For me, it's been a little bit harder, I think.
Yeah. I think that's probably a normal thing for a lot of people.
I think a lot of
personality type.
I can't remember who said it, but a quote, if you go back, is that all men live lives of quiet desperation, right?
Yeah.
So in a world that most men do live a life of quiet desperation, because I found that to be very true.
Yeah.
You got to find meaning in life before you can get out of that desperate place, and that's where the spirituality part.
They're desperate for meaning. Is that what they're desperate for? They're desperate for.
You found meaning the same way I found meaning.
Yeah.
I think that's the part of the desperation that men don't know what their meaning and their value is, other than self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where the spirituality part comes in, because here, let's talk about it through the perspective of what you said and trying to find the answers to life. What's run through my head as a man is that the universe is 13 billion years old. 100 billion stars in this one galaxy, 100 billion galaxies like us, blah, blah, blah. This vast expanse. And the universe doesn't make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It just is what it is.
But it decided after 13 billion years that you need to be here. Was that a mistake?
I would say no.
If it's not making any mistakes, then you're part of the fucking fabric of space-time.
Yeah, sure.
The universe determined that you're right here right now.
Yeah.
You weren't here before, and you won't be here afterwards.
And here I am.
But you're here right now, and if the universe doesn't make a mistake, then there must be a reason you're here.
Yeah. And that can be interpreted.
That's my spirituality.
And that you could take universe and put God in place of it if that's what you believe.
Whatever terminology is right for you.
It works the exact same way. But yeah, I agree with you on that. It's like, here I am.
It's like, why the hell am I here? Okay, so there must be a meaning to this. Just because I don't have the answer to that doesn't mean there isn't one.
Yeah, maybe you make a
meaning, it makes a good case that I wouldn't be here if I wasn't a necessary part of things.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't necessary that I was, because it just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Interesting thought.
Being alive at all is like winning the lottery 10 billion times over.
Yep. We talked about this before. The odds are just
odds are astronomical, right? It's almost impossible for us to be alive at this very moment and having this conversation.
Yet here we are.
So there must be some type of meaning to it. And once I come to that realization, the desperation doesn't seem so, the quiet desperation doesn't feel like it's there anymore.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason to this shit. Now I got to go figure it the fuck out.
Yep. It's funny. It's to me too, that's that kind of thinking about stuff like that is freeing. Even when I can't think of the answer, it's like it frees me from the daily grind of the shit you get caught up in, where you wake up, you do the same thing you did yesterday, you do it again and again. That whole spiritual aspect really kind of taking a step back out of yourself.
Don't you think that the spiritual, and we've talked about Freemasonry on here before. I'm a 18-year Freemason, or at least until recently. I spent 18 years in Freemasonry. And a huge part of that is spirituality. It's a non-religious society.
Yeah.
But I think the oldest, most successful fraternity of men on this planet was strongly associated with spirituality, and there was a reason for that.
Yeah.
So I think that gave me perspective on it too. And that's why it's been so good for men to have been able to be in these Masonic guilds and Masonic fraternities and Masonic societies to teach each other strong masculinity and help make each other stronger, better men. I think that's always been a part of masculinity.
Well, having examples to follow.
Having examples to follow. There's nothing wrong with being a follower at all.
No, not
as long as you're following for your own benefit. If you're following to be a sheep, that's different.
Yeah.
But,
there's a time and a place for everything, and there's definitely a time and a place for following.
For sure. Well, there's a line in the movie Idiocracy. You remember the movie Idiocracy? Did you ever see it?
Yep.
Where Owen Wilson's in the library. You remember he was the most average guy in the military? And that's why they chose him for the experiment. And the guy comes in and says, you got to go. You can't be in the library anymore. We got a replacement for you. Oh, I didn't want to lose this job. Well, I think I could teach him to sit on his ass all day, right? And he said, well, you got to lead, follow, or get out of the way, right? And either lead in the military, lead, or follow. That's fine too. Or get out of the, at least be ashamed enough to get out of the way, right? Any of those are fine. Any of those are completely okay as a man in the military. But it's all right to be a leader. It's all right to be a follower as long as you're not a sheep for being a sheepsake and giving it all away.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought.
I think we're coming up closer on the end of things, man.
Are we really?
How do you want to close this out?
Time flies.
It does go fast, doesn't it? When you're talking about a good conversation, you're having a good conversation about something that you feel strongly about and matters. That time, this hour that we do goes so fast.
This is something we've talked about before. Once again, we didn't get on here with any script, but we kind of, talking about this for an hour, no problem. But I don't know. I guess my final thought would just be kind of how we started it out. It's all about taking care of yourself, taking care of the people that you care about, and just being who you are and finding a purpose.
For sure.
Knowing what that purpose is and, not backing down from it and don't let the bullshit in the left tell you that your masculinity is toxic, because it isn't.
It's not.
It's not.
Your masculinity is toxic. Mine isn't toxic. I've lived a good life because of mine. I know you do too.
Me too.
I've seen your life. You live a goddamn good life from it. And same for you. If there's any problems that are going on in your life and you need, throw comments out there. I mean, men need to be able to express themselves too, and the only way we can really do it is with other strong men.
Yeah.
So we all need to support each other. Women need to support each other as well, but men need to as well on some level. And it'd be nice to see a world that become part of a world and a movement that brings healthy, strong, protective, providing masculinity back, because it's needed more now than ever. All right,
100%.
Cheers to that, brother. All right,
cheers.
Cheers.